Okay, let's talk about double exposure. Double exposure is one of my absolute favorite tools in Snapseed for getting really creative. Now, double exposure had sort of like technical photography roots, right? Back when people were shooting on film, well, still today when people are shooting on film, they would sometimes accidentally or intentionally expose the same piece of film twice. And what you would mean is you would get images essentially superimposed over each other on the same frame. And so this can yield a ton of intentional or unintentional sort of outcomes. But yeah, there's so much you can do with this tool creatively. So I'm going to show you two of my favorite examples. The first is like so. So when you select double exposure, it's immediately going to prompt you to select an image. So this is essentially going to use your local gallery. I know this image is already in my Snapseed folder, and so I'm gonna scroll down and find it. All right, and once I have my second image, what I like to use this for is creating a sense of speed and motion, almost like a motion blur. So that's one example of double exposure that I really like. So I'll kind of save it just like so, and you can see the outcome there. The second one is like so, and I'm going to even show you a little advanced trick. So there's some photographers on Instagram who I really like who have been doing double exposure where they've been exposing cars and flowers. And for whatever reason, I really, really like that. So here is a classic Ferrari I captured in Italy. And I'm going to double expose this with a flower. And so this time I'm gonna use the search tool and I'm gonna search yellow rose. And this is actually a rose I captured in my backyard. And so what I can do now is I can impose this over the image. And then what I can do is I can use this here to kind of like define the opacity. And there's a bunch of other styles in here you can experiment with that kind of like changes how the image is superimposed over the base image. But what I want to show you is in just the standard kind of mode, what I can do is I can do this, and I like this here. So I'm gonna save this, and then I'm going to go and I'm gonna do the same thing really quick. Yellow rose. Okay, and then I'm gonna actually flip it with my fingers and put it up here. Okay, I'm gonna turn down the opacity on that a little bit. Okay, and then here comes the pro level course. And this is actually a lesson that you can do with anywhere in Snapseed, which is you can go into your stacks view and you can actually edit each layer. So I'm gonna go to my first double exposure layer and I'm gonna mask it. I'm gonna select subtract. I'm gonna turn on this toggle up here to expose what I added. And I'm gonna go in and I just want the rows. And so I'm just going to erase all this stuff, okay? And then I'm going to go and I'm going to do the same thing with the other layer. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to select erase and I'm going to erase all this extra stuff that I don't want. Okay, but I want to bring that back actually a little bit here. Okay. All right, cool. And boom, there is my final output. Might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I kind of dig it. And so yeah, a ton of creative potential in the double exposure tool, but that's kind of the basics of how you can use it.